Hey guys, welcome to the Daily Word Bible Study, a plain and simple book by book, chapter by chapter, and verse by verse study through the entire Bible. We are in Jeremiah chapter 11. And again, Jeremiah is now facing backlash for speaking the word of the Lord, meaning judgment is coming. And I can't help but take a pot shot at some of these false prophets, which most of these people who are called prophets today are false prophets. And I can say that I have yet to see one person who called themselves a prophet today. And by today, in the last couple of generations, okay, that is actually a true prophet of the Lord. Any of them, okay? I digress. But unlike the true prophets of the Lord, these fake prophets, they are not facing backlash. But Jeremiah is facing backlash and threats. And as I said, as we move on, he will experience tribulations because of that. He will experience suffering for speaking the word of the Lord. And so let's get to it. Jeremiah chapter 12. Um, Now, this is Jeremiah's kind of response. But watch this. He says, you will be righteous, Lord. Now, this statement here, now, watch this. He says, you will be righteous even if I bring a case against you. But I want you to notice that it comes to mind when Job launched his complaint against the Lord. He always remained respectful, and that was the difference. Notice he said, you will be righteous. And also, but think about this. Think of the relationship that that Jeremiah is able to kind of voice without God saying, "How dare you speak against me?" And then later beams come out, you know. And I'm thinking about this movie, one of the Star Trek movies when Kirk, I think it was Star Trek Five, and they were they thought they was on a quest to find God, and then when they came up and the guy come to find out this entity was kind of like playing them. It's like, well, fine, if you think I'm God, okay. And then all of a sudden, when they came and they go, look, I bought the Enterprise, and then the entity go, what? You bought a ship? What? Bring this ship closer. Huh? Bring this ship closer that I can kind of meld with it. And then Kirk go, what does God need with a starship? And then he go, are you questioning me? And then fire lasers come out. Okay, yes, I'm a Trekkie. But um, you notice here that God is not angry because Jeremiah is actually questioning him. Now, what God doesn't tolerate is disrespect, accusation, or as some people today, and I'm thinking about, there is if you can find them on YouTube, there is um, a group of people that is called ex-Christians or deconstructing. In other words, they are deconstructing from Christianity. They're ex-Christians and now they're atheists. And so a lot of their videos tend to challenge God, disparity. In other words, they will come right out and say, well, we don't think God is love at all. We don't think he's so merciful. What's so great about God? Yada, 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 yada. Okay. I don't think it's worth to get into a debate with them because, okay, they think that. Now, one of the patterns I do see is some of them are younger. So they got a nice little life to go. And by the way, God is not threatened or insulted by that. You can't challenge him and God say, well, I'll show you, you know. And a lot of times we're silly. So let's say, for example, if one of them was to get into an accident or some kind of, I'm thinking about one of the leading atheists, Christopher Hickens, okay, who's now passed away. He's been passed away now for several years. And people would be like, well, see, God struck him down because, no. No, cancer got him. Just like cancer gets a lot of people, including Christians. So it's silly to think that you bring God down to your petty level to think that he's going to respond because you respond, okay? It's like the Titanic. A lot of people thought, that when you had this newspaper headline that says, God himself could not sink the Titanic, I see God kind of looking up, looking down, saying, yeah, he doesn't have to respond because he said, these fools are going to destroy themselves, which they did. Not only did they sail right into the iceberg, but even in their arrogance, the ship that was supposed to be watertight wasn't watertight. But I do digress. So, verse 12, verse 1 says, you would be righteous, Lord, even if I bring a case against you. Yet I wish to contend with you. And notice this. Why does the wicked prosper? Why do all the treacherous live at ease? Now, great question, right? Great questions we've been asking. No, this is 27 years, 2600 years, right? And so people have always kind of asked the question. Notice he says, why do the wicked prosper? Now, I'm going to answer that. I'll kind of go off script here because I think it is something that's worth answering. Now, first of all, let's take a look at why Jeremiah is asking the question. Okay, remember he's asking the questions. If you're going to go back to chapter 11, and just look at verse number 21. Therefore, this is what the Lord says concerning people, Anathah, who want to take your life. They warn you must not prophesy in the name of the Lord, or you will certainly die at our hand. So the pressure, it seems that he's asking this. It's like, well, why do the wicked prosper? Now, so the immediate context seems to point to the people that are threatening his life. Now, he also is forgetting they're not prospering. Just in a few short years, judgment is going to come crashing down on them. So that's the first thing. Now, if you want to even expand it and say, look at some of the nations around, like Assyria, Babylon, all these pagan, right? All these pagan nations that seem to be just thriving. Why are they? Why are you letting? Why aren't you doing anything about them, right? But again, you're not looking at the bigger picture. In other words, they will fall. Babylon will fall during Daniel's time. Remember, if you're reading the book of Daniel, Babylon falls in the 5th chapter of Daniel. Right? He lives through the Babylon and starts and ends his life in the Mede and Persians. But they fall as well. Sometimes one of the problems we have is we think that God kind of thinks on our level in our limited time and space. If I was to get sick right now, and this happens all the time, if I was to get sick and it could be any kind of debilitating uh, illness. So my life shrinks, right? It comes to a slow crawl. Maybe I'm sitting in the hospital bed, confined. So life is changed. Now, life around me is still going, right? And um, this we just switched over to the new year. But remember, everybody was out, celebrating New Year's Eve. Everybody was out celebrating New Year's, the holiday, right? But if I'm confined to a hospital, life changes. So you could have the same perspective. Man, life is so unfair. I'm confined to this bed. I'm dealing with these illnesses that is afflicting me. Okay. Whenever we suffer, life comes around us. Maybe you're suffering um, financially, right? And everybody's buying new cars. You're getting evicted. You just lost your job. People got a promotion. But life, again, so it will be easy for us to ask the question, Lord, why do the wicked prosper? And the problem with that, of course, is, again, we're narrow and not looking at it from a standpoint. God is looking at everything from a bird's eye view. Now, another thing is that, as to why the wicked prosper, let's broaden it in terms of God's plan. And then you go back to Adam when he fell. When Adam fell, he put the earth, as in Adam all died, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 21, 22, things change. Now, remember, I think I mentioned Adam in the last video, Adam, who had everything, right? Life was perfect. The temperature's perfect. They didn't have no clothes on, right? So it had to be perfect because they wasn't walking around freezing. But when he sinned, it changed. Life changed, right? Life changed for them. Now I don't know if there was other temperatures around during Adam's pre-sin days. They were perfect, at least in the garden. Life was perfect. Existence was perfect. But when he changed, life certainly changed. And when you think about how God has to deal with everything, God in his wisdom is dealing with life as it is: corruption, curse, and then sinfulness. Okay? So, when we ask the question, oftentimes we have to look at what God is looking at. Now, sometimes even people may say, well, this person is prospering here. Why would God even use a wicked person? Well, you have to stop and think about, from Adam's standpoint, when Adam sinned, we all die. It's all corruption. All right? It's all corruption. So, a lot of times with the notion, it says, if I bring a case with you, he says, I wish to contend with you. He says, why does the wicked prosper? Why do all of the treacherous live at ease? Now, another thing is, he's asking this question with the assumption that they are. In other words, you look at life. We can look at life today and we think, look at how the wicked. Why you stop and think about it? The most wealthiest people are the wicked, and it seems like they get away with everything. I mean, you think about the police, how they do so much evil sometimes and get away with it. And the question is, from God's perspective, you have to always look at it from God's perspective. Do they get away with it? Now, that doesn't mean, because there are a lot of people that get away with doing evil stuff. Ever since Adam sinned, people get away with doing evil stuff. Right? This person murdered someone, but they got away with it. Right? You have a wicked king, a wicked emperor who just gets away with stuff. Right? They live and they die. Now, keep in mind, they do die. So the ultimate consequences, the facing of their actions will come at death. So ultimately, in other words, you don't always see that a person will always see, one, you will not always see it. In other words, you will not always see a person meet justice. Now, sometimes we do, and it is nice and it is sweet when we do. But I'm going to say more times than often we don't see a person live right like justice. It doesn't always happen like as in a storybook, a movie, where in the end the protagonist wins. No, I can tell you, look, and just on a look, when my parents split up, life was hard for us. My father did not give a care about that. Yet at the same time, he remarried and they lived happily ever after. At least that's what it looked like. He was financially well off, and from what you see, hey, now in the end he passed away of some kind of illness, which I don't know. But he lived into his early 70s. Did but so here's my point. When we ask the questions, we're not going to always get the answer, at least from our perspective. Now, when we come to the New Testament, there's even another perspective. You think about the Apostle Paul. You think about all of the lives that he hurt. Think about that. He afflicted a lot. He imprisoned people. He tortured people. He made people blaspheme God. We can't. So there was a lot of torture that was going on with the Apostle Paul. A lot. Did he get justice? Did he ever stand before a a judge and said, "Look, all of the um, evil you've done"? He didn't even stand before God because he got saved, right? He always thought about the evil that he's done. It stayed with him, and he even wrote about it. I am not worthy to be called an apostle. I am the least because I persecuted the church of God, he would often say. But think about this. We all have that grace and mercy extended towards us. And in Paul's case, he went on to be one of the greatest apostles. God used him to lay the foundation. I'm not reading, we have 13 of his letters that we have been blessed to build our Christian faith on. So there's that perspective as well. There's that perspective as well. That you don't know who you're talking, you don't know you don't know who you're interacting with. That they could be a person that God wants to reach. Now, in a case, it also could be that they're just evil. And that's still going to be in God's hands. So now we come back to Jeremiah's question, why does the wicked prosper? Why do they live at ease, right? Well, one thing is, again, we always assume they do. We don't know. We're going to go by what it looks like. And I'm not going to say probably, look, they might live at ease. They might. I oftentimes think about a lot of the prosperity preachers. People say, well, how can they sleep? They would probably tell you they sleep very well on their 20,000 thread, count, right? Thread, whatever they call it, the thread count, satin sheets. They 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 go to sleep every night, and they do. They probably live very well driving their coming out in the morning. Which I'm going to drive my Rolls today, my Bentley tomorrow, my Mercedes Wednesdays. They live, and then I'm going to fly my the fleet of little jets. They do very well taking your money. I digress. So my point is, we don't always know that. Yeah, they seem like they're living very well. They seem like, and again, I don't know because I'm not in that. I'm not in their atmosphere. But they do live well. They do okay. But so what? They live well. All right, we'll come back to this in the next study. I thought there was a question sometimes we can ask, but we ask it all the time. We think it all the time, no doubt. Okay. Um, but we'll pick it up in the next verse, in the next study. Don't forget to like and share this video and subscribe to BP, the Bible Perspective. And as always, If you have a thought or comment, add it to the comments section below. All comments are welcome, and I'll see you in the next study.